Hey, what's up? It's me, your girl E, coming to you today for a Saturday writing session. It is June the 27th. With the writing a mystery info, I presumed that we will be all month. However, we got through it last week, and I was not going to do a writing session today because I said we'll just wait to the first weekend in July. But for what? You know what I mean? So, today we are going to be talking about writing your memoir. We have some new books, published books coming on the horizon, and one of them is a memoir. And a lot of people have asked me. A lot of people have asked me on writing their memoir. Like I'm told to write my story, and I don't mean to say it in a very dismissive or condescending uh, tone, but everybody has a type of story because I believe it's your testimony, something that got you over a specific season in your life, right? And you were encouraged to write it, you were encouraged to share it. So we're going to be talking about that and how to do so. Um, Also, I was encouraged to do this because of the simple fact of to encourage your writing journey, to encourage you to be an author, encourage you to um, write it out. I mean, it's very easy to tell somebody you're writing a journal, write in a journal, write in a journal. I am a journaler. I write in a journal all the time. So it's easy for me. It's easier said than done because this is what I do. I'm always writing. I always got a pen and a pad. I always got brainstorms and ideas. Someone asked me last week, where do you get your inspiration? I get it from everywhere. I get it from a song. I get it from a TV show. I get it from a movie. I get it from the heavens. Now, as a Christian, I honestly believe that God downloads ideas in me. He may direct me to a type of inspiration from a song, TV show, or movie, whatever, book, whatever. So I know that God guides me to that source because it's a gift. It's a gift. I'm an author and a writer. So we're going to be talking about writing your memoirs, the inspiration, and I don't even know if we might even get through it all. We may even get through it today. We'll see. There's not a lot of information. I pulled it up online. But what I also would like you to do before we get into it, please like and subscribe so we can generate more rotation. I'm actually looking forward to doing these Saturday writing sessions. It makes me feel important, a little dignified with it, because one of the things that I want to encourage people is to tell your story. Tell your story, whether it's in fiction, if you're a fiction author, tell your story, whether it's through poetry, tell your story, whether through writing a play, tell your story by writing a memoir, however the drive you have of telling a story, tell your story, right? Share it. Okay, so first we're gonna talk about a memoir. Here's my memoir. And when I first wrote this, I ignorantly called it a biography, autobiography. That's how much I understood the difference between a memoir, autobiography, and biography. So here's mine. It's called The Resurrection of Phoenix Black. It is available on Amazon, and it's a foreword by my cousin, the Reverend Fred H. McCree. I asked him to write the foreword. Now, this memoir took me about 6 to 7 years to write. It was published in 2021, June of 2021, and it took me a minute to write this simply because there's a specific person that I just did not want to. I mean, I'll just be very transparent. Um, my daughter is from my first marriage, and it was a very turbulent marriage, and I did not want to demonize my daughter's father. I'm one of those believers, people that no matter what happened in the relationship, especially in a marriage, when children are involved, you do not badmouth the other parent, especially in front of the children, because one, that gives them a new perception of that parent, and then what it can do is hinder any form of a relationship of the new normal. So it took me a minute to write it because I felt like I was bad mouthing my ex-husband, my daughter's dad, and that's something I was not going to do. It's too easy because the things that happened, I was telling what happened. But then as I began to write, or brainstorm, I'll say brainstorm, I had to take accountability on the role that I played in the demise of the relationship. So when you're in a turbulent situation, whether it's a friendship, a marriage, um, you have to take accountability of your position. Your position may be innocent, and you're looking at, well, why did they say that to me, or why did they act that way to me? Um, Remember where you are, or where you were at that time. What was the mindset at that time? What was the agenda at that time? Was the agenda to prove to the world that you can make it? I don't need anybody's. Well, it's kind of a vengeful and a mind frame where you don't need anybody. You're blocking the world out. You're being very you're isolating yourself, and that's not healthy. Now, we may have to isolate ourselves for a season to regroup, to regather our thoughts. That's one thing. But you got to understand the mind frame and the emotion behind it, the root. So I had to take accountability for my part in the relationship, the mindset, and also deals with other relationships in the book. And again, accountability had to be addressed, not from the people, but from me, the person telling the story. And what did I learn from that experience? And this is what we're going to talk about with writing a memoir. Okay. Again, The Resurrection of Phoenix Black is available on Amazon. A few people have read it. A lot of people have read it. There's some reviews, and it's a very emotional book. I will say that. And again, it took me some time to write it. That is me. I am the Phoenix. I love the Phoenix. I love fire. I love, I don't know. I don't know. I'm a fire girl. I even like the humidity. Don't ask questions. No, don't get me wrong. I'm going to be sitting in the AC, but I love warmth. I love the heat. All right. I love the concept of the Phoenix. Sometimes the Phoenix will kill itself to be reborn. Sometimes the old you have to die. It's time for a new you, a new season, especially as we get older. I'm now 50. I cannot think and move the way I thought when I was in my 30s. I cannot, because there's no growth, right? That's why I love the Phoenix. Okay. Starting, the one thing you got to do, the first thing you need to do is think like a novelist. When you're writing your memoir, you're writing a novel. Okay. When you think of a novel, you think of a fiction story, you think of a mystery, you think of some type of fiction genre, right? No, your memoir is also a novel. There are many good reasons for approaching a memoir as a fiction writer would approach a novel. Remember that you are telling a story that is very crucial. Okay, you're telling your story. Often a memoir will focus on one significant event or central theme, which means that you can be creative with telling a story and the passage of time, for example, as you would if you were writing a novel. So think about this. When you're writing your memoir, you have to write it as if you were writing a fiction. Okay, it's a true story, but you have to write it. So once upon a time, there was you, right? You have to either use your real name or, like me, use a alias. I don't like the term alter ego because I'm keeping 100 as a demonic spirit, and that's something I don't entertain. But something that you say connect with. It could be butterfly, it could be raven, it could be anything, star, whatever. It could be something that you connect with, right? A new name. Say a name that, say your parents was going to name you, but they chose to name you whatever name that your name is. All right. You have to be creative because you have to tell the story. You have to put your reader in the scene, right? A memoir that I assisted our author in publishing, she just told what happened to her in her life. And the thing was, I needed to encourage her. You have to set the scene. You got to tell us how your summers were. We know it's hot in the summer, especially actually all year long in any state of the country. But take your reader. She was visiting her grandmother. Was your grandmother someone who likes to bake? So the nostalgia of going to your grandmother, you can smell cinnamon, you can smell flour, you can smell butter, you can smell the milk, you can smell the baked goods. Was your grandmother someone who likes to sew? You woke up in the morning, you saw thread and needles and material spread throughout um, out the living room, and she was working on curtains or a quilt or something. Take us there, because now we are in the scene, and this is your summer vacation, and this is something that happened to you that taught you valuable lesson that you want to carry on throughout your life. Okay, put us in the scene. Okay, because more likely, the scene is a part of the story. Okay, um, you want to also keep your reader in suspense, not give away too much too early, and maintain a narrative tensions that are not necessarily story elements, but one would immediately associate with the memoir. But moments of light and shade can keep your reader in a gripped story, keep your reader invested. Um, and again, remember, you are the protagonist. Okay, understand that, because you, the protagonist, has to grow. Okay, I'm going to keep saying it. If you have read a story or know a story or think of a story where the protagonist stays the same, the story sucks. The story has no motivation. The story has no meaning. It's just it doesn't grow. Your antagonist does not grow, but they can. They can change. They can learn from their lesson, right? They can say, maybe going about this is the wrong way. Maybe I should shift perspectives. But your antagonist more likely will stay the same, not your protagonist. All right. So your memoir needs to read like it does not need to read exactly like a novel, but you have to think of it as a novel, because when you're telling your story, again, you are keeping your readers motivated, and you are setting the scene, and you are establishing um, an atmosphere for your reader. All right. Your memoir is not an autobiography, and that was the mistake that I've made when I was calling my memoir my biography or autobiography. It's what you also want to think is, keep in mind that when writing your memoir, you're not writing an autobiography. It is not um, like a volume, respectfully, like that. Um, you don't need to cover every detail of everything in order exactly as it happened. You don't have to say when I was 5, and then when I was 6, then I was 7. Your memoir is something that you experienced that may have shaped your thinking and your outlook, and then how you grew from that. All right. Um, what you want to do is find the essence of truth, the key of the success of all good writing, as Hemingway believed. Hemingway talked about the iceberg method. The iceberg is, you see the big old iceberg that's out in the ocean or in the sea, but what is underneath? Okay, so your reader needs to know what's underneath, because we see the iceberg, we see you. Okay, we see you, the person, what's on the inside, what's underneath. All right. Um, when you're writing a memoir, do not embellish, don't lie, tell the truth. Okay, and that's one of the struggles that I wrestle with writing mine, because I can simply tell you everything that happened to me. This was my life. This is what happened, right? And I can kind of fabricate it to be entertaining. But again, what role did I play to get the results that I got? Okay. A lot of people think that when you play a specific role and you get the results that you get, they're bad results. No, you can save your money. And then when a situation happened, the result is you have the money to fix it. What role did you play? The role that you played was, you was very you got good money management. You save your money. That's a result. That's a consequence. And a lot of people don't like the term consequence, because consequence is a bad word. No, it's not. It's a fact. What are the consequences? There's good consequences. There's bad consequences. Okay. Um, it's often the case that even if the reality is outlandish, dramatic, or surreal, something that might make you think that this is something like out of a movie, in real life, can actually feel forced or trite when it's on the page. So I have friends who, when they tell me stuff that happened to them through their day, through their lifespan, what happened to them in their 20s or whatever, and they were a kid, It sounds like a bold-faced lie. I'm just like, right. But then when you find out they were telling the truth, you're like, what? Are you serious? Okay, then what happened? Um, don't embellish. Just don't embellish. What you want to do is just simply tell the story and put your reader in the scene. Tell your reader, tell the story. And one of the things that the example that I give is, give me something that happened, a pleasant story that happened when you were a kid, and set the scene. Now, I'm going to set the scene, right? Okay. When I was, I think, 11 or 12, my parents had separated for a season, for a couple years. Now, they got back together, if happily ever after, but I'm going to set the scene. Um, my mother told me that we may not have a grandiose Christmas that year because of finances. Okay, we get it. I'm the oldest, so I had to put on the face like, okay, it'll be a mediocre Christmas. My brother and I may not get everything we asked for, but that's okay. As long as we get something or we're together. That was how I was taught. Is that how I felt? No. But as a kid and the oldest, I had to put on the face to kind of show my kid brother, this is what it is. Okay. And then one day, maybe a week before Christmas, my mom and her dad, my grandpa, brought in this huge box of wrapped gifts. It was huge. They were carrying it together. And there were names on the box, my brother's name and my name. And they were not on the box, on the presents. And we put them underneath the tree. Every single day after school, after dinner, my brother and I would just go underneath the tree, and we could not wait to open up these gifts because, considering the situation, these were the gifts that we were going to get. And we were beyond grateful. We were extremely excited. And we were just thinking, like, what could it be? Okay, what could be in this package? It'd be a big box. It'd be a little box. It'd be a rectangle box. It'd be something. And we shook it like most people do. They shake it. But we just couldn't imagine. And we just could not wait to open up because we were beyond grateful. Because if mommy can't get us anything, but we were still blessed to receive something, we're going to open up these gifts with grateful hearts and enjoy every single moment of the Christmas. We was in the moment. It was very nostalgic, very heartwarming, and that was it. So Christmas morning, my brother he always woke up early Christmas morning. Me, I was up between 7 and 9. My brother, like 5 and 7, he was always the one up. And it was about 7, 8 o'clock in the morning, and I'm knocked out sleep. He's waking me up. He's like, you got to get up. You got to get up. And I'm like, no, I'm okay. We can open up their gifts in a minute. I'm all right. Yeah, I don't want to get up. But he says, you have to get up. You have to get up. See what's underneath the tree. And in my mind, I already knew it was a bunch of gifts that we got from whoever that my grandfather helped bring in the house. I'll open them in a minute. I'm asleep. He kept saying, you have to get up. There's bikes downstairs. There's a race car track. There's this. And I'm like, what? No, what are you talking about? No, we got the box the grandpa brought in. He was like, you have to get out of bed. So he pulled me out of bed. I'm just like, okay, I'm groggy. I'm waking up and I'm walking down the steps, and I walk into the living room where we held our Christmas, and my mom stood there with the biggest smile on her face. She just so excited to see the excitement in my brother and me. It does my heart because she was so excited. And everything seemed to sparkle. It was like a glitter. It was like, whoa, what happened? There were two bikes. There was a 10-speed bike, and there was a bike from my brother, and there was clothes, and there was toys, and I'm just like, how and when? And like, I couldn't understand it. And my brother and I, we were tearing open the gifts. And these weren't the gifts that my grandfather helped bring in, but they were the gifts that my mother presumed to make appear out the sky. And my mom had told me that my godmother, who lived across the street, was hiding stuff in the house. And then her brother, my uncle, who lived up the street, was hiding stuff in his house. And I was like, oh, well, where did these boxes come from? the box of gifts that we had before, my mother never gave me an answer. And if she did, I wasn't, I didn't hear her. But it was a very surreal moment. Okay. And I will never forget that moment, because what it taught me was, one, to appreciate the little things. Okay. Because when you do, the big things come, right? It doesn't have to be the material things. It's just a point that when you show yourself grateful for something little, then somebody is going to give you something bigger because of your little greater appreciation. It sounds like a contradiction, right? And the thing was, my mother told me her best friend, my uncles, my godparents, they helped out to make sure that my brother and I had the best Christmas during a specific season in our life. Right now, don't kill me, but I don't think we even opened up those other gifts until later that night. And of course, they weren't as grandiose as what we had received from our mother and her family. But the thing was, I remembered that because I accepted what I was given, because I didn't have to get anything. And that was the lesson. That's my favorite Christmas story. Okay. So tell that story, right? Because even to this day, I don't care if I get a Christmas gift or a birthday gift or whatever gift, because I have something more important. I have a great husband, I have a great kid, I have great friends, I have great family. I don't care if I get because I know that in a time of trouble, when I need them, they're right there. So they call or text or happy birthday, happy Mother's Day, whatever. I don't care about that stuff. I care about if I'm going through a rough patch in my life and they're texting and say, hey, I wanted to check in and see how you're doing. I just wanted to call you just to hear your voice. That means a lot, because that's the birthday gifts, all that stuff. That's, to me, that doesn't hold any weight, because you could be mean to me all year, but then want to give me something for my birthday. I don't want that. Right. But I value that in my friends and my family. And that's what it taught me from that Christmas story. I think it was like 87, 88. I don't know. But nonetheless, tell that story. Okay. Tell the story. Tell how you felt. Be very realistic. Okay. I did not want to have I didn't want to wait Christmas. My brother and I are spoiled. Okay. We are spoiled children. Let's keep it real. We were used to having the Christmas parties with the family, the big Christmas tree with the icicles and the lights and the bulbs and the candy canes. And the one section was my brother's section, and he got all the goodies. And then the other section was my section, and I had all the goodies. We were spoiled children. Okay. And then my brother and I are both born in the spring. So if we didn't get it for Christmas, guess what? It was coming around the corner. So when my mother told me what it may be, I said, okay, because there's nothing I can do with it. And if I showed myself to be ungrateful, I could have very well gotten in trouble physically. You know what I mean? But I said, you know what? It's okay. And after I kind of got over my little 5-second moment, it's okay, because I know that my mother was trying, doing her best. And the right thing to do is to be grateful. And for that week, my brother and I was extremely grateful. And we were, of course, beyond grateful when we saw the surprise that was waiting for us when we both woke up that Christmas morning. So share that. That's a memoir in itself right there. Don't talk about what the Christmas when I turned 13. No, I don't. Who wants to hear that? Don't discuss what happened the summer of that year. Who wants to hear that? Talk about that moment. Okay. And that moment could be a season. That moment might be a year moment where you had to really learn a valuable lesson in your life. That moment could be, say, 10 years where you went through something. That's your memoir. It's not your autobiography. All right. Next, establish your narrative voice early on. Right. It's true in all writing, especially in memoirs. And when you need the reader to be on your side, you really know your character. You're the character as early as possible in the book. You take them on a journey and lead them by the hand through some of the most personal moments of your life. Just like I shared with you um, that time. My parents were separated. They had been separated at that time for 3 years. Now, they had just separated when we had that Christmas. And who knew how long they were going to be separated? And that was very hard for my mother, hard for me, and hard for my little brother, because now our father's not living in the home. And so we did not want to be kids of divorced parents. I know my mother did not want to lose her marriage. I know my father didn't want to lose his marriage. So it was a very, very personal time. Now, thankfully, my parents did get back together, lived happily ever after. But I had to share that personal time, how I was feeling. And as the oldest child, I needed to make sure that I maintained um, a position so my kid brother can follow through. So sometimes I felt that the pressure was on me. I'm sharing a personal feeling. You understand? You need to get your reader to understand where you're coming from. Because remember, you are the main character, the protagonist. You have to be relatable to your reader. Okay? Your protagonist has flaws. My flaw was I didn't want a mediocre Christmas. I'm spoiled. I want what I want. Keep it 100. Let's be real. Okay? So you have to discuss that. Make sure that they are familiar with your voice from the first page, and this is very crucial. Your reader must trust you. Your reader has to trust you. You're telling them something very deep and very heavy that they can relate to, because now your reader, in a very emotional way, is connecting with you because they're kind of telling you, I get it. I've been there. I understand. You see how you're connecting to your reader? All right. It doesn't have to be because you're a trustworthy narrator, but because they need to understand your perspective and think the best way to do this is to settle them into the timbre of your voice on the page from the beginning. So you have to have a rhythm, okay? Timbre is a sound. You have to have a rhythm. You have to connect immediately. Think about when you meet new friends. You smell, hey, it could be. I remember I met this young lady at a job I was working at. Her name is Ranice. Okay, and she goes by Minnie. If you're watching, or if you ever watched this video, I'm gonna tell you how beautiful your spirit was. We were getting ready to go into HR to get her name badge, and she looks at me and she goes, "Hi." Now this is 10 years ago, so it wasn't like we were in 16, 17 years old. We were grown women. She goes, "Hi," and I say, "Hey, how you doing? Good morning." And she goes, "My name is Ranice," and I said, "Okay," and introduced myself. Right? We became instant friends. We sat together in our training. We just became instant friends. In fact, we became so tight within that time frame that our training group thought we known each other for years. No, I just met her last week, right? Her voice, her timbre became very trustworthy. All right. On a technical level, you might want to do this to incorporate some of your dialect and patterns. Think of Maya Angelou's I Know Why the Cage Bird Sings, which is an incredible example of a strong voice in a memoir. Now, numerous comedians have imitated the sound of her voice, the rhythm of her voice, but when you hear her speak, you lean in. Like, what is she talking about? When you hear it, like, wow, yeah, I like her. And what she's saying is facts. One of the things that has been repeated by her numerous times throughout decades is when somebody shows you who they are, believe them. Because we trust Maya Angelou. We trust her wisdom, right? So your reader has to trust you. Okay. If it sounds like you, you're on track. If it sounds like someone else, keep editing. What I want to encourage is that if you feel that your book sounds too stale, where this is not how you sound, edit. Okay. If you find yourself using words that you normally don't use, for the sake of sounding intelligent, okay. But you can also find words on thesaurus.com or just get a thesaurus and use other words that make those words sound more relatable or sound more like you. I don't talk with a vast vocabulary. Okay. I tried to one day, I would like to, but I don't. Okay. I just keep it 100. I'm very unapologetically raw when I speak. I've been told I need to on some things, right? But my audience notices how I sound, especially when I'm writing. All right. Um, let's see. I might just end it here because we're a half hour in, and we got four more topics to five. No, you know what? Let's keep going. Treat each person like a character, not someone you know. All right. The other characters in the other people in your book, so it's your mom, your sister, your brother, how I mentioned, they are characters. Okay. Believe it or not. And we discussed character development before, and we could definitely discuss it again. You are the protagonist. Okay. My mother and my brother were side characters. Okay. Um, the antagonist in this story, it could have been we could have said my father, but we're not going to do that. The antagonist in my story, it could have been the elements, the money, the season, because the season that we were in, we had to be financially responsible. Okay. I did not have a bad father, even during that time of separation. My father was very, very present in our lives, even during that time, hence why of the reconciliation of my parents. But it was the fact that during this time of the separation, my mother needed to be responsible because she had sole custody of two children. So the antagonist of this story, I would say, is the element, the money, you know what I mean? And again, um, the antagonist can change, which it did because my mother actually saved money and was able to get all the goodies that we really didn't want in her heart. All right. Um, what you want to do is also you want to give the voice to each character. My brother, the kid brother, was excited. Come, you have to see, you have to see, you have to see. Think of your little kid, your younger sibling, the excited one, where you, the older one, have to be a little bit more reserved. All right. And then my mother had this bright smile on her face. My mother was known to have a personality. She walked a room when she walked in the room would light up. So when I entered the room was already lit up. Okay, you need to describe the people in your life. Describe how they look. Describe how they sound. Write what they would say. Okay. Um, you don't have to give every single detail of every single character, but the main characters. The main characters in this story was my mom, my brother, and myself. I mentioned my godmother and I mentioned my uncle. Those are extended family members, but we don't need the details of that specific story. Unless I'm going to share an experience with my uncle or share an experience with my godmother. Okay? You also want to talk about their hopes, desires, fears, and dreams because they are characters. What's their favorite foods or drink? Do they have unusual habits? All right. And this not only provides you with an invaluable level of objectivity, but also means that you can really flesh them out on the page. Okay. Hopes, desires, fears, and dreams. So I had mentioned earlier that my grandfather helped my mother bring the box in. Okay, again, another extended family member. So now this was a family situation. Okay. My godmother, my uncle, I think I even mentioned my mom's best friend. These are all extended family members, right? And the main side character would have been my mother. Her hopes was that her children have a nice Christmas. Her dreams was that she accomplished this, right? The fears was letting her children down. Then the desire was again having this beautiful season. My brother and I, of course, our hopes was just to get through the holidays, to be grateful. Okay, because we were that week we shook those wrapped gifts and imagined what they could be, right? I don't know if my brother had any fears. I know I didn't have any specific fears. Um, and again, it was that we was in the nostalgia of the moment before Christmas morning. Okay, the unusual habits I can talk about. Um, I would say my brother's waking up at the crack of dawn, which to our family was not unusual, but to any family that kind of had an idea of what something's going to be, then there's no reason to say wake up early in the morning, just get up when you get up and just go about your day. But no, there was something in my brother that led him to wake up that early in the morning. Okay. Um, and again, you can flush them out. I can describe my kid brother. He's like 6'2" now, but I can simply describe him. He was at the time was maybe five, I don't know, less than 5 feet. He had to be 8 or 9 years old at the time. Thin frame, average looking kid, attractive kid, handsome kid. You know what I mean? My mother, those who know me and those who's watching live, my mother was a 6 foot queen, always very beautiful, very eccentric. And again, with the big smile, it was typically her. All right. Um, again, you want to make your readers relate to this moment, this intimate family moment between a mother and her children. All right. Your readers don't need to know about Uncle Jack or, I mean, they should. Again, they should. I didn't need writing a memoir. I did not. I should now say this. Sharing the story, I didn't need to get in deep on how my mother was actually feeling, because we got it. We didn't need to know the dirty detail, because right now this is my story. This is my perception. Okay. Now, if I'm writing a autobiography, then I can tell you maybe what I overheard conversation between my parents to get me to perceive the way I perceived and to move the way I moved. But that's something that we can tap into later, and later is now. All right, guys. I hope you got it, because it was a lot of information that I wanted to bring into a short period of time. But again, let me just go over the facts. Writing a memoir, you have to look at it as you're writing a novel. You and the other characters in your book, these are your characters. These are your secondary character. This is the main character, protagonist, the secondary character, and there's even going to be an antagonist. The antagonist can be the society. Antagonist can be the system. The antagonist could be a very person, right? In my situation, I shared antagonist was the elements. It was the separation of parents. It was the lack of financial resources that to me, was too privy to even understand, too young to understand of this information. But then you want to share that, all right? And you also have to be relatable to your reader. Your reader has to get it. And that's with any story, because you're the protagonist. I'm going to drill this home, because that deals with character development. All right, guys, have a great, 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 safe Saturday.